Hi everybody, we'll be starting in about 1 or 2 minutes, so please hang on. Thank you. Hi everyone, good afternoon. Welcome to our webinar, Do What You Can with Blockchain. My name is Sean and I'm the Community Manager here at SFA and also the MC for our session today. Thank you for spending some time with us this afternoon. Without further ado, I'd like to go ahead and kickstart today's webinar by introducing our lovely moderator, Kok Ho from Bit Data Exchange. Take it away, Kok Ho.
Thank you, Sean. Good afternoon and welcome to the Singapore FinTech Association webinar with Bit Data Exchange. And we have guest speakers from Samsung and Temasek today. So I'm Kok Ho, the Business Director at Bit Data Exchange, a regulated crypto asset exchange in Singapore. So our theme today is Do What You Can with Blockchain. And in order to add layers to this discussion today, we have invited guests from different backgrounds, from a homegrown fintech startup to a global tech giant and a active venture builder around the world. So without further ado, let me introduce our lovely speakers to you. So it gives me great pleasure to welcome Ian Chong from Samsung. He is the Regional Director and Head of Enterprise IT and Mobile for Southeast Asia and Oceania. Hi Ian, welcome, and please tell us a bit more about yourself and your role at Samsung Regional.
Sure, thanks, Kok Ho. So my name is Ian. So I look after Southeast Asia as well as Australia and New Zealand, specifically around mobile B2B that covers everything from mobile devices to tablets, as well as wearables. And we provide a range of solutions catering for the enterprise market as well.
Great. Next, we have Ian's colleague, Timothy Tan. So Timothy is a head of enterprise business IT and mobile for Singapore. Hi, Timothy. Nice to see you again.
Hi,
Please
Coco.
introduce yourself and also maybe share a bit more about your role at Samsung Singapore.
All right, thanks, Coco. Hi, everybody. So my name is Timothy. I am in Ian's team, looking after the Singapore market for B2B. So we actually help local companies get familiar with Samsung technologies, as well as our partners. So nice to meet all of you.
Thank you, Timothy. So next we have Kevin Lim, the director at Blockchain and Temasek. He is also the founding member of Market Nodes. Hi, Kevin. Welcome.
Hi, guys. Hi.
Hi. And please tell us a bit more about yourself and your role at Temasek.
Thanks, Coco. Yep, I'm Kevin. I sit in Temasek's blockchain investment team. So I've been very much involved in the investment and venture building activities in the scene in the past 2 years itself. Very happy to be here today and looking forward to the exchange's views. Thank you.
Thank you, Kevin. And last but not least, my wonderful colleague, Wayne Ya. He's the Chief Trainer at Bit Data Exchange. Hi, Wayne. How are you today?
Hey, hello, Coco, and good day to all online audiences.
Yes.
And my name is Wayne. I'm Chief Trainer, and also I'm in charge of our OTC operation for Big Data Exchange. So about 5 years ago, I was still trading a traditional market like equities and futures and forex. That was when I first heard about Bitcoin, and like most people, I didn't pay much attention to it. It was only till like 2018 where I finally sat down and read the Bitcoin 9-page white paper in details. It's funny to say this. I actually spent 4 hours on my computer and reading it over and over, and then it blew my mind. So that's when I fell in love with crypto and started trading there ever since. So that's more or less about me. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Wayne. So what we're going to do is we're going to get sort of like do a bit of a housekeeping first. So the webinar has two parts. So part one, there will be a short presentation from Ian, also to give us some context about Samsung involvement in blockchain. And part two, which is a large part of today's discussion, we're going to have the speaker to talk about blockchain technology and how it has influenced our day. And also, if there's any question that you have, there's a button below here, so you can maybe ask us question, and the panelists will then choose to answer it live for you. So let's get started. I'll perhaps hand this over to Ian for a short presentation on Samsung. Take it away, Ian.
Thank you very much, Kok-Ho. So today I would like to share with you what Samsung is doing in the area of blockchain. And basically, at Samsung, we pride ourselves at an open model of partnership and collaboration, as we believe in critically pushing the industry forward with innovative mobile experiences for our customers that they can trust, right? So we will dive into some use cases and the tech behind how we are leveraging blockchain to improve our user experiences. So probably let's begin. And back in March of 2019, we basically launched two services within our mobile devices, which was introduced together with our Galaxy S10 lineup. And these services are the Samsung Blockchain Key Store, as well as the Samsung Blockchain Wallet. So the Samsung Blockchain Key Store is basically a differentiated service where we provide the capability to store private keys safely within our devices using something called Samsung Knox. And secondly, with the Samsung Blockchain Wallet, you have the ability to be able to transact as well as be able to access that content, basically to to exchange cryptocurrency, for example, and using the private key, which is stored safely, like I mentioned earlier, using the other service. So these are the two services that we launched back in March of 2019. And as we began to think about how we actually can leverage some of the years of experience we have in mobile technology, we started thinking about how we can actually integrate blockchain technology to our devices as well. So the key was really to provide the best user experience possible on our Galaxy ecosystem, together with our experience in building the best mobile devices out there in the market. And after launching the S10 back in 2019, the Samsung Blockchain Wallet service has actually grown in terms of support with some of the most popular cryptocurrencies, including things like Bitcoin, Ethereum, Tron, ERC tokens, and TRC tokens, as well as Clayton and Stellar and so forth. And it also allows Galaxy users to also explore decentralized apps or DApp that uses blockchain technology to authenticate the exchange of digital assets. So everything from games to social media, finance, security, and much more. And Samsung is looking to provide access to this latest dApps and offer recommendations for our users across a variety of categories. And we have actually supported this across, in fact, 18 countries and just recently Brazil. So that brings us to a total of 19 countries since March of 2019, Singapore being one of them. And that leads to this question, right? I think blockchain technology is really transforming the way we do business by allowing our customers to cut out the middleman and, in fact, provide numerous vital services, reducing costs as well as boosting efficiency. But is it secure? More specifically, can blockchain-based technologies simultaneously offer trust and privacy to ensure private and tamper-free records? I think that's the question we want to ask today. And here in Samsung, we have always prioritized security, not only for blockchain, but for every single mobile device that we have manufactured and built. We saw the need of mobile security more than a decade ago, and we are currently at the forefront of it. In 2013, when we first set out to build the most trusted, most secure mobile devices in the world with Samsung Knox, we only had one goal in mind. And the goal was very simple: to build on Android OS security with a hardware-based solution that defends devices and customer data against all kinds of threats or mobile threats. And we call this security from the chip up, and it is a multi-layered defense-grade security. So Samsung Knox has grown into a very holistic end-to-end platform that protects billions of devices. And we leverage the trust zone within this particular hardware to do that. And if you look at Gartner and IDC, they have many good things to say about this solution that we have with Knox. We actually scored one of the highest ratings within that particular report from Gartner. And also lastly, our relentless commitment to mobile security for our businesses, our business partners, our customers as well, which we have over 15,000 businesses that we support today. And basically with the mobile security, this gives us the credibility and the trust to work with state level security agencies. You see here with countries like US, Germany, and so forth, and passing some of the world's most stringent security protocols. And not only that, we are actually the only manufacturer in the world to design and develop its own products. Samsung is able to offer true end-to-end protection throughout the entire development cycle, right? Giving customers confidence that their devices have been tested and scrutinized. Now, we also committed to make sure that we stay one step ahead in terms of new threats. Most recently, we've also made announcements where we provide patches to most of our products on a monthly basis, and you can read all about it. In fact, we even beat Google themselves in terms of monthly updates into the market. We also included up to 5 years support for our enterprise edition devices as well. And one more thing is really around the real-time kernel protection against threats at the system level. Now, what do I mean by that is this is very important because most integrity checks that you see on mobile devices is when people actually reboot their phones, which rarely happens today. I mean, think about it. When's the last time you rebooted your phone? And for us, we make sure that you're protected even when you restart your phone or not, especially during real time when you're actually using an application, we are also protecting it as well. Now, when it comes down to storing and managing virtual assets, right, devices has to be secure. Now, if you look at Samsung's mobile blockchain solutions, which is made possible by the defense-grade Samsung Knox security platform I mentioned earlier, the private keys used for cryptocurrency and dApps are encrypted and stored in an area isolated from the main operating system. Right? We call this the Samsung Blockchain Key Store. This information is further protected using a secure processor. So think of it as a vault within a vault. And we can only access this by providing the asset owner's PIN or fingerprint. Now, if you compare that with other devices, the private key, for example, is stored within the storage layer on the operating system versus ours, which is within the trust zone itself. And that brings me to my next point regarding blockchain on mobile and why this is important, because as we continue to grow within this particular space, everybody and most people already own a mobile device today. And we made sure that when we think about how we were going to deploy this solution or blockchain within our mobile, one very important thing came to mind, which was the Samsung blockchain key store had to be separated from the operating system itself. Now, what you see here are basically two separate environments within the same phone. So think of it like a virtualization, but on the hardware side, you have the rich OS, which is Android, and you have a trusted OS, which is basically the trusted execution environment, or what we call the secure element on the device itself. Now, this is totally separate, and there are actually 4 main areas that I want to talk about. Firstly, it's about computation. Basically, when you run an application which is trusted, for example, a dApp application or a wallet, for example, it will be on a secure site, totally separate from the OS. Secure display means that basically you can't do a screenshot, or people are trying to run a malicious application to try to read your screen. That can't be done as well. Now, in terms of secure touch, what that means is that when you key in your PIN, for example, or there are key loggers that are looking to extract your 12 to 24 word mnemonic words or phrase in order to recover your key, we make sure that they cannot actually see what is being tapped on the screen as well. And lastly, is secure storage. That's exactly where your keys are stored. It's stored totally separate on a specific part of the hardware. Even the memory and all that are totally separated. And that is the reason why this is different from the solutions that you see out there in terms of our blockchain technology on our devices. Now, in terms of use cases, I think one of the key things that we talked about earlier was really the introduction of the crypto blockchain wallet. Now, we introduced this with S10, of course, with recent devices. We have that as well. It's preloaded on our phones. And we have also made it easy for our customers to manage their crypto wallets on the device itself. So what that means is you can actually set it up the moment you buy a device, you have to open it, you can just go to the crypto wallet, set it up, key in your PIN, key in your recovery phase, confirm it, and you're ready to go. So we've introduced this across a wide range of our devices, and we support different type of wallets in order to provide a much better, consistent user experience for our customers to manage their crypto assets from one convenient location. Now, in addition to that, the Samsung Blockchain Key Store that I mentioned earlier, with the Samsung Galaxy phones, we can now connect to hardware wallets, including things like Ledger Nano S or Ledger Nano X. And with the wallet, the users will be able to keep up with all the latest trends as well. There's also a feed within there that allows you to look at dedicated news via like things like CoinDesk as well. And next is, if you are a developer and within the fintech space as well, we do work with mobile developer community for a very long time. And if you think about it, it really makes absolute sense to actually have developers focus on what matters most to them, developing the application, while leaving key management, signing of transactions in a secure environment to us. Because with Samsung, we believe with innovation, we can only happen through open and collaborative approach together with our partners via an open access to the blockchain ecosystem. Now, developers who are building dApps that generate and store and manage blockchain accounts, you can easily process these transactions through APIs using the SDK that we have built as well. Now, a particular division within Samsung, Samsung Next, is also partnering with technology partners to develop innovative solutions to meet the market needs. One of these organizations is actually Limpo. So Limpo is actually a health app that encourages you to stay healthy. So basically, by staying healthy, it connects to our Samsung Health as well. And once you reach certain goals, you can convert those limb points and into basically cryptocurrency, and then exchange it to purchase things at the same time. So next is really around something called private share. So we introduced this in S21 recently, and using the S21, we can actually have a solution which is a privacy preserving file sharing function that allows you to share your data across and to make sure that there's no concerns or invasion of privacy or loss of ownership. And basically what it does is you can just send a file to somebody, you can revoke it anytime, set certain expiration date on there. If you are the data, data owner, you can also set and grant access and remove access anytime you want. All this information is via the blockchain ledger or distributed ledger. The data is immutable, and as and when you want, you can revoke that sharing as well. And this is available across our devices from Samsung. Lastly, I just want to cover one more use case, and this is regarding decentralized ID. So Samsung has strengthened our security of mobile devices by linking the blockchain key store and decentralized ID technology. We've worked with SK Telecom with Initial DID Alliance. And basically what this does is we can actually extract the ID and store it within the device securely. And as and when it's required, this is again like a permissionless network where you can actually use to authenticate yourself without having to store that information within the third-party organization. But they can authenticate with yourself, and you carry the device, making sure that even in case of device theft or loss, you do not need to worry because the certificates are stored. And if you think about it, the potential is really broad, and there's a lot more applications that we can do, including things like driver's license or even passports, and maybe in the future, vaccination passports as well. So with that, I just want to wrap up and just emphasize our commitment to not only expand the Galaxy ecosystem, but also to make sure that it is as secure as possible for all our users. So with Samsung Knox at its core, I just want to mention that with Samsung devices and the entire ecosystem, we want to keep you guys and the users safe and every step of the way with a trusted real-time security built around it to make sure that this is the new way of living and working as well. So with that, thank you, and back to you, Kok Ho.
Thank you very much, Ian. I will come back to you with a few questions because I think the presentation is like really insightful, but I'll just want to move to part 2 of the webinar. So I'm gonna kickstart the conversation, our discussion today. The theme is do what you can with blockchain. So it's pretty exciting. And let me perhaps pose this question to Kevin. So Kevin, this year has been an extremely eventful year for Temasek in the fintech and blockchain space. So I'd like to maybe call out 2 joint ventures that has been making the headlines, Patio and also Market Notes. Can you maybe tell us more about that?
Sure, thanks, thanks, Kako, for that. So Temasek has been quite active in this space for quite some time now. And it's actually my pleasure to be able to share with the audience as well that this year itself, right, through some of our efforts across the last 2 years, we've been able to publicly announce 2 key joint ventures. The first of which is Patio that you rightly mentioned. So that's together with DBS and JP Morgan, and it's really trying to explore the opportunities in the space of digital currencies. Separately, we've also launched MarketNote earlier part of this year in January. So that's a JV between ourselves and SGX. We've subsequently also invested into a firm called Covalent Capital in February. And the intent, right, of a lot of these activities there is trying to work towards the vision of creating an end-to-end digital asset platform. So both entities are now in the midst of being set up. We are actively recruiting people to stabilize and scale the efforts on that front. And hopefully towards the end of this year and next year itself, we'll have more news to kind of like share with the wider team out there.
Very interesting indeed. And of course, Kevin just said they're actively recruiting anyone. So now I'll maybe move back to Ian, right? And Ian, as you have shared earlier, you have sort of shared quite a lot of things about Samsung in the blockchain space. But in 2020, Forbes have quoted that Samsung has secretly becoming a major player in crypto and blockchain. Maybe tell us a bit more about Samsung ambition and what's the strategy surrounding this?
Sure. So I think from our view, when we first started off with actually going into blockchain 2 years ago, the whole idea was really about the prevalence of mobile devices out there in the market. And if you think about it, there's a lot of people having devices right now. What can you do with them? And using blockchain, we can make sure that the people can actually transact and do different applications on top of that, or decentralized apps as well. Now, and I think I just want to re-emphasize the point on security, because if you look at most devices, it's really about this, and you've probably heard about people who have lost their blockchain or their Ethereum or Bitcoin account and lost a lot of money, and that's because they store the key in an area where even if you hide it behind a bookshelf or whatever, people can still get to it. And that's the difference of the solution that we have from a device perspective, because what we do is that we basically have, you know, like a vault within a vault, I'll call it, right? Like I mentioned earlier, is the fact that it's hidden within the hardware perspective, within a secure processor outside, where, you know, software or malicious attacks cannot actually access it unless they have a physical phone. And even so, you can't actually extract that information without the authentication of the user. So to me, that is part of the reason and the roadmap that we're building. We're continuing to build more of this. You've seen that with private share, I've mentioned earlier, where we actually are able to share stuff without actually having to send that information. Like imagine your passport and all that. You can actually revoke that as well. So we are doing more of that in the future. So stay tuned.
Okay, great. So now I'm going to ask this question to Wayne, because with the Temasek explanation and also Samsung, you know, sharing of that. So from crypto startup perspective, Wayne, so what are the advantages when large institutions started to move into the blockchain space? What are your thoughts?
You know, Coco, it's comforting to know that actually large institutions are starting moving into the blockchain space, because this helps to drive faster adoption of blockchain technology and also crypto assets. You know, a few years ago, there are no clear regulations on crypto assets, especially. But now we see increased efforts by regulators all across the world. You know, crypto exchanges like us are regulated under Payment Service Act in order for us to conduct business in Singapore. There are also big names who are out there using blockchain technology to improve their business processes. I give you some example. For banking and finance, one of the largest UK bank, Barclays, they're using blockchain technology to streamline their fund transfer and also KYC processes. Walmart and Pfizer, they are also tracking their products on blockchain to improve the supply chain processes. We also have listed companies. We heard that very much in the news, like Tesla, MicroStrategy, and Meitu. They're all holding significant number of Bitcoins in their treasury. There are many more of such moves. That's too long for me to list it here. And of course, fintech startup like us, we can take comfort, which allow us to grow in this industry. The beauty is in blockchain technology, everyone is equal, and it enables us to flourish with the trend.
Yes, well said. So now I want to come back a bit closer to home in Singapore, and obviously the members of Singapore FinTech Association that have dialed in today would be quite interested, right? Question already coming in. So this is for Kevin. So Temasek actually have an accelerator program called HyperX. So perhaps you can share with the audience today about this program and perhaps your involvement in it, and later I'll talk about collaboration.
Sure. So HyperX is a partnership that Temasek has started together with this firm called StartupX. And the general focus itself is very much on sustainability, right? So I don't know whether the folks on the call know, but Temasek is a huge proponent of the overall angle of sustainability. I'm happy to share more in separate conversations itself, but it's a space that we care deeply about. We've also seen that there's a lot of good ideas on the ground from various startups itself trying to focus in this particular space. But the general question really is, how do you bring an idea from beyond the point of ideation to an actualization of a business, right? And then hopefully scaling it over time. And I think that's where the idea of HyperX is being born. So this is a program that's kind of like broken into 3 parts. The first of which we call it the HyperHack phase, and that's a 3-day hackathon where we focus on really trying to understand and deepen and deep dive into the underlying idea itself. Both which there's a HyperSpark space, where it's a 10-week pre-accelerator program, right? Before we focus and bring some of these great ideas that pass our judges screening to what we call the accelerator phase, and really try to look at a way where we can hopefully work with great founders out there with brilliant ideas in a sustainable angle and try to build those ideas beyond pure ideation and bring it to fruition in life. Unfortunately, in the current COVID situation, we've kind of paused on that particular front for registration. But hopefully, once things are a bit more loosened up, I would say in next year, hopefully, the registrations for this will start again. And I look forward to seeing more people joining the program.
Okay, pretty good. So we'll watch out for that. So next year is 6 months from now. So guys, you can maybe start preparing for it. So Singapore. So Samsung Singapore, this is for Timothy. So perhaps tell us a bit more, as a technology giant, and Samsung is well known, how Samsung engages the SME and the startup and how we can help their business.
Thanks, Coco. So in Singapore, one of the key focuses of the team here is to enable startups, enable developers to utilize the technologies that Samsung actually has. One of the biggest secrets we have is that most of our technology tends to be a secret because we do not promote it enough. So what we actually try to do is actually to promote the technologies like what Ian shared today, to actually SMEs companies, for them to accelerate their development process and work with us to enable it on our devices. So while we like to focus on our devices, we are also an open company. So as you know, the Android platform that we champion is also an open platform. So how do we help? We basically help you when with the easy things, which is like loan devices, access to APIs, access to some of the SDKs and source codes for both the open side, the open APIs, but also some of the more controlled API sets. So that's how we actually help. And beyond that enablement, we also have a very large network of sales partners. So we can also assist in the GTM process, go-to-market process. And Samsung by nature is a consumer company. So if your solution is good and it actually has a consumer reach, you could also activate potentially the consumer base as well. So there are many, many ways which we can work with SMEs. We would like to hear from you how we can help you in your journey.
Sure. Great. So with that, attendees, you can maybe type in some questions because we actually have quite a lot already, but let me finish the discussion first. So Wayne, as a fintech startup and a regulated exchange here, perhaps share a bit more about the challenges that you face here, because now we have a good panel of, partners here that we can potentially work together.
All right, sure. First of all, I like to, I cannot emphasize enough how important big data exchange views regulations and also security, because as interest grew in this space, consumers will need to be protected, and we aim to provide a safe and secure avenue for our society at large, in order for them to gain exposure to crypto assets safely. So this goes without saying, most of our operating expenses are actually going into compliance and also to the security, IT security, and after that, the rest of our resources are used to reach out to acquiring customers, do more business. So that's one challenge, definitely, and also the market openness and the readiness are also a challenge, because there are believers and non-believers of crypto assets. So what we do, we are constantly reaching out through forum like this, just to provide education and industry sharing, to debunk rumors and all these hearsays that we see in social medias, that most of them are actually untrue. And last but not least, it is also a challenge to actually employ the right people to come and work for us. Especially we are in the middle of this global pandemic. There's travel restrictions and all that. No foreign talent. So to pick from a small talent pool in Singapore, in a new industry, in a new field of study, this is extremely tough. And I'm sure our attendees today from the fintech space actually share the same sentiments as me.
Yes, I'm sure they do. So I'll jump to the next section, which is about innovation and blockchain. So this is for Ian. So on the blockchain innovation front, what projects or initiatives that Samsung has taken to strengthen your competitive advantage?
Sure. So there are a couple of projects that we've worked on, including some of our partners. One of our divisions called Samsung SDS. Basically, they've worked with the Port of Rotterdam as well as ABN AMRO, and to be able to provide a end-to-end blockchain platform in terms of logistics. So they actually were successful in basically moving a container from Rotterdam all the way to Seoul and be able to track the entire process, including the payments and the e-contracts as required to get that done. Of course, there are a lot of other solutions out there, like, for example, of asset tracking, right, for transportation, where the device is being used to access things like everything from the moment you fish within the farm all the way down to the table, right? Fish to table. So basically what we have done is provide some of these capabilities on the device to be able to track some of that. But like what Tim said, right, and especially most of you are fintech organizations, is that we provide a huge range of solutions out there, and some of it can be as simple as making sure that the device is kept in such a way that people will not steal it. You have the ability to lock down certain capabilities like Wi-Fi or Bluetooth to make sure that it's always secured, or even as simple as integrating your own wallpaper on the screen, right? That people can't change, to make sure that it's branded on your own. These are different things that we can do. And as what Timothy mentioned earlier, we provide a breadth of different solutions and hardware which you can test and work with us. And we'd be more than happy to support you on making sure that some of these solutions will be able to fit what your customer needs as well.
Interesting. So talking about innovation, so Kevin, so I want to ask you maybe a bit more about permissionless blockchain, something that you're quite interested in and you would like to share with the team here. So maybe tell us a bit more about this innovation and how you think it would really shape our, life in the future.
Yeah. So maybe if you guys would allow me for a few minutes, right? The reason I wanted to share a bit on this front is because I think it's actually a very important point. The current world out there's been a lot of attention in the crypto markets. And frankly, a lot of the attention is driven by the price action that we've seen, right? Put aside the fact whether a lot of people have made huge amount of monies or lost a lot of monies, whether regulators think that it's actually good or is it going to be a bubble to be burst. But I think it sometimes misses the main point, which is the benefits of the underlying technology. And what's more important, what are some of the things that can actually create and allow for us, right, in the future, which is not existing today. So if you down a bit back, and frankly, if you look across the history of humankind, especially in the space of innovation itself, things tend to accelerate quite a bit. So on that front, right, before the digital age, before information is so readily shared within the internet itself, for you to transact, you actually have to meet someone in person, or you actually have to write a letter and then get it delivered to someone else, right? And then post that with the launch of an advent of the internet, it allows for a lot of people to share data across jurisdictions, across global boundaries. But with it itself, it is still data that's being shared. The data can be copied, the data can be replicated, and the data, unfortunately, sometimes can be tampered with, right? The concept then of blockchain, I think, and that's an important point to emphasize, is how could we actually find a new way of transporting data where whoever's received that data piece basically have full control of it. And at the same time, it's ascertained that, yes, I am the owner of the underlying piece of data. And this concept is actually quite powerful, which is really what I'm quite excited about within the permissionless blockchain space, because it now allows for a way whereby digital assets can be readily distributed across global boundaries in an instantaneous fashion, right? Where individuals that have the private keys to access it basically say, yes, I do have the rights to own this piece of data. And what that data represents, it basically has to be tied back to real world economics. But I think the important point here now is we now actually have a means whereby digital assets can be readily created, find a way to tag it back to real world economic purposes, and distribute it in a seamless, instantaneous fashion across the globe, regardless of boundaries. And I think that concept itself is actually very powerful.
That's very interesting. Yes, I've done quite a bit of research on that as well. So I'll ask you a bit about some use cases later, but let us just maybe now, after hearing the innovation and the technology and the R&D behind all of that. So this question is all about use cases, and maybe this is for Wayne, tokenization, right? Tokens are being deployed in the financial markets. Can you maybe share a bit more about how this helps promote financial inclusion, for example?
All right, Gokul. So the word tokenization actually created a token economy. So this actually offers the potential for a more efficient and fairer financial world. So in my opinion, it's actually one of the greatest benefits is in the area of financial inclusion, and especially true in emerging economies. This is so because majority of this population, they do not have bank accounts, let alone access to any loans or insurance. So in my last few years of study and work, I came across an interesting project called FarmTrack. So it has a unique system that combines the livestock and financial services ecosystems into one. So I give you an example. Try and imagine yourself as a cattle farmer, and then you desperately needed a loan to tie you off some cash flow problems. This is very common. So this is what typically, a layman will do. They bring the herd of cattle, travel a great deal to the nearest city, walk to the bank, try and convince your friendly banker for a business loan, and then you use your cattle as a collateral. So, this sounds mad, right? I mean, for people out there, there's no other ways, So something like this would not have been possible to achieve until the arrival of blockchain technology. So what this project does, the cattle and other livestock doesn't have to just be cattle. It can be chicken, it can be a sheep, So these livestock, they are tokenized, and then they are securely linked to an animal in the real world via tamper-proof RFID animal tag. So, and then this livestock token can then be used for, traceability or provenance to enhance the livestock value chain, and then brings new financial service to all these smallholder of livestock farmers. And then you see these farmers, they represent a large population of the industry in most emerging markets. And now they can collateralize their livestock as an asset to pledge to the bank and then get access to formal financing. And this will definitely improve their livelihood. So this is one very, very good use case on tokenization and then use on livestock. It's so interesting.
Great, thank you. Yes, obviously blockchain is all about, decentralization. It's also about financial inclusion, and it's really quite nice to know that there's a lot of innovation out there moving towards this. So talking about that, this is also a question that's coming in, which is aligned to the question I have for Ian. It's about your blockchain, how can blockchain be integrated into your mobile app development, and also maybe share a bit of your roadmap plan for blockchain wallet, if you can, and SDK for various countries.
Sure. So I think just to follow up to what Wayne said as well, right? There's this project where we were trying to look at moving the coffee beans all the way to, for example, a coffee shop like Starbucks, right? And sometimes you go there and you say you want to tip the farmer, but a lot of times this kind of programs out there, they do not reach the farmer themselves or the bean collectors. But using the fact of blockchain, you have the ability to be able to track these assets and be able to trace them. Number two, and why mobile is important is because you can actually take and educate these people. Now, today in this world, out of the close to 8 billion people, 3.8 billion people do not have access to a mobile phone, not because they do not have coverage. They do have coverage in a lot of this space. Only 500,000 people in the world are outside of this coverage gap. But the rest of these people actually have. But the problem is proper education, number one. Number two is the ability to provide these things like Wayne has mentioned, right? And I believe with the proliferation of mobile, we can achieve that. So if you look at the earlier slide that I showed earlier on blockchain apps and creating that capability, Limpo is a good example of doing this. And this can be done in your industry that you are in, whether it's fintech or entertainment. In this case, it's a lifestyle application. And the advantage of this is that through Limpo, what they've done is they've taken this application, built it to the health watch, right? Detect for example, the goals that they have, run 5 kilometers, the same as you would do with Fitbit, and then be able to use that to track and create a gamification around that so that everyone can live healthier lives. But what is important is that through this, we can actually convert it safely and transact safely on a mobile device, fully secured using SDKs that we've built using the blockchain SDK as well as, and then through the blockchain wallet where you can then access popular platforms like your Bitcoin, Ethereum, and so forth. So to me, these are some of the areas that I think we can help in driving the development of this in this particular fields that you're in fintech especially. I think there's a lot of use cases around that. I also agree with Kevin around the permissionless network as well as ID, because I think decentralized ID is really the thing that's coming. And you look at Facebook and all that, it's all about privacy. You want to make sure your information and the ownership of that information about yourself stays with you. And no better way than, just like I always say, the best camera is the one in your pocket. The same case for your information, your private information should stay with you, and only allow permission for people to view and see whether you are the right person, and then they can authenticate and transact or do whatever they need to. So I think that is where we are heading in terms of our roadmap and what we are doing in this particular space. We are making sure that we give you that access, but more importantly, be able to also benefit those people in this kind of countries. And I think blockchain and mobile actually helps to improve the poverty line right? And make sure that people have the education to do much better as well.
Yes, that's precisely what we're here today to talk about. Now, I have a question for Kevin. This is also aligned to some of the question coming in as well. So you actually have maybe your years with Temasek and yourself, you actually have come across a lot of interesting and innovative projects. Perhaps you can maybe share some with us here, like use cases that's outside of finance, not related to crypto, maybe just like what Ian has talked about. Perhaps you can let us know, and because there's some of the few questions are related to this.
Okay, I'm going to be biased, right? So on this front, I know we may be running short of time, but maybe in the next 2 minutes or so, let me just share very quickly the thinking that we see in this space itself. There are 3 thematic areas that actually is quite exciting for Temasek, that we think that this is actually going to be pretty big. And that's the concept of identity, currencies, and money. Sorry, identity, currencies, and the digital assets. So allow me to explain, right? So just echoing Ian's point itself, gradually as the world get more and more connected, individuals do value their privacy, and companies as well, they do value their privacies. They also care about how do they manage their personal data, right? The trouble today is the way that data is being exchanged. A lot of us actually basically create an account and sign on to some big tech platform. You lose control of that, right? The best you can actually do is that you try to find some way to ensure that the data is encrypted and hopefully is being properly secured at the server's ends. But you have kind of given up control, the very fact that you actually want to make use of certain online services. We think that this is a big theme because identity ties everything together. For one to basically transact, they need to first establish their respective identity. If there's a way that they could actually take control of the identity, decide whom to share it with and where to take the information back, I think that's actually quite powerful. Then let's go to what I talked about, digital currencies itself. And why do we care about this? There's so much talk about smart contract. We like the idea, right? The smart contract angle, programmability of money, it's really the thesis whereby, look, if we were to enter into contracts with any individuals out there, any counterparties out there, how do we get that certainty that if certain conditions are being met, indeed, our contracts will be fulfilled as per the conditions as laid out. Now, today, a lot of that way is a mix of probably online correspondence, people checking at the back end, and people verifying it against documents which are printed, so on and so forth. It doesn't have to be the case if a lot of these conditions are actually being programmed. But to allow for the programmability of money and smart contract fully to come online, you need a representation of money, right? Digital money. Because any transaction itself, financial transaction, if you were to break it down to its fundamentals, it's just going to be an exchange of asset on one end, an exchange of financial or monetary considerations at the other end, right? So the concept of digital currencies itself, to us, is actually a big theme because it creates enablers on top of that. That's actually quite powerful. There's smart contracts and programmability of contracts without people having to worry that operational, there's going to be a gap, someone forgot to check something. This as a concept is something that we think has huge potential. And finally, just kind of like coming back to the final point I have on digital assets, for Market Node itself, which is one of the key JVs that I'm running, we started first very much in the traditional capital market space, and we're looking at how do we digitalize what are some of the instruments that we're familiar with in this space. But really the broader intent out there, and I think this is where it's actually quite captivating, is that any asset in the market actually has a chance of being digitalized, right? The concept that we have today of financial instruments, whether it's going to be shares, whether it's going to be debt instruments, are constructed by mankind. There may be more creative ways to participate in economic interest on the grounds itself, right? But in order for that to be done, basically we have to create a way whereby assets are a lot more easier to be created, transferable, and shared. And I think, again, just tying it back, that's where we think as a paradigm shift, the whole idea of blockchain, where data transfer results in digital asset ownership transfer, is, again, a very powerful theme that we think has huge potential that goes beyond the digitalization angle of existing financial instruments. So yeah, that's a bit of a long spiel. So I think what I'm just trying to share here is, I don't think there's going to be one use case or there's going to be one or two examples that's really exciting. It's about the collective enablers, across the ecosystems and people working with different pieces, that when you bring it together is actually quite exciting because it really changes the experiences that people go through on a day-to-day basis. And then that in turn is a paradigm shift.
Excellent, because I think that's exactly why I have more questions for all of you here, because collaboration or collaborative environment actually encourage the adoption of blockchain. So the more you partner, the more you collaborate, the bigger, and the wider it will grow, right? So this is the final segment of the questions, and also there's also a lot of Q&A coming in with regards to this. How can the people work, the audience work with you? So maybe for Samsung first, how can the members of Singapore FinTech Association work with Samsung, especially after this session? Maybe Timothy can take this.
Yeah, thanks, Coco. So I think to work together with us, I think the first thing first, you need to find out about technology. So later we'll share a link as well. It's at a place called developer.samsung.com. And at that site, we'll actually list out all the technology Samsung has, but in particular, the blockchain ones, how to get access to utilize the hardware on the device for the wallet, etc. So with that, go figure it out. And then if you need help, contact us. And also, if you have an idea how we, with our resources, we can actually work with you, also please contact us. Drop us a mail. We'll be glad to have the conversation.
Just on top of that, though, would you be able to touch a bit on Samsung Next? I know it's predominantly more in the US, but maybe you can share just a glimpse of it. Soon it'll be in Asia, perhaps in Singapore and all that.
Okay, so maybe I can share a little bit about it. So Samsung Next is primarily an investment arm from Samsung's perspective. We actually do sponsor or work with a lot of startup companies globally based on certain themes and trusts which differ from year to year. Not yet in Singapore and the region, but very, very active in the United States. So typically, we look at technologies which have future implications to both our business as well as basically globally, society as a whole. And Samsung Next is actually would be interested to look at startup companies with interesting ideas or developed ideas to actually invest in.
So Ian and Timothy, if it's in Singapore, let us know. We hope to be part of this. Okay, so there are like at least 5 to 6 questions for this, right? This is for Kevin, Temasek. So how can they engage with Temasek? How do they collaborate and partner with you?
Wow, I think just reach out, right? No, I mean, genuinely, like we're always happy to have conversations. Obviously, not all conversations lead to a collaboration, right? There must be an alignment in terms of the stage that we're at, the capabilities we're looking to build, and likewise the pathways, right? It always has to be a bit of a win-win situation, because if not, it always feels difficult to push it forward. That I have to say. But we genuinely are very keen to have conversations with various folks. We know that we can't do it all. And again, at different points in time, right? Sometimes maybe the conversations are just held at the beginning and nothing materialized immediately. But there have been a number of instances, 1 year, 2 years later, actually that conversation resulted in certain partnerships with us. And we have been quite happy to maintain that dialogue all along.
Yeah, thank you, Kevin. And Kevin, you can reach out to him on his LinkedIn. He's very responsive. All right, so, okay, we only really have 5 more minutes to go, so I need to wrap this up. So before we go, I have a question for all our speakers here today. So in your opinion, in the blockchain space, what should we watch out for in the next 6 to 12 months, starting with Wayne?
Okay. For me, I'm personally interested in how non-fungible tokens going to play out. So non-fungible tokens, in short, would be NFTs. So they are a special class of digital assets that cannot be exchanged with one another for equal value, or it cannot be broken down into smaller bits. So they cannot be duplicated, and ownership is verified using blockchain technology. So just the first quarter of this year, NFT sales has hit a staggering $2 billion USD. And within that, some of the hottest categories that we look at would be like games, online virtual worlds, collectibles and even fine art. So maybe some of you still remember what happened in March earlier. NFT art piece, it was auctioned at Christie's for $69.3 million, and then it attracted more than 180 bids. So I think this is just the tip of the iceberg. NFT, I think it's gonna grab the headlines again within the next 12 months when more and more people are drawn into blockchain technology, increased understanding, and of course, crypto assets. So just my take.
Thank you, Wayne. So because of timing, I'll combine Samsung together because Samsung already have a lot of airtime. So Ian?
I think just watch out what Elon Musk is going to say. I think from a mobile perspective, it's really about making sure that people get their hands on a device to be able to transact. And I think that is the quickest and fastest way for people to access cryptocurrency and digital assets as well. And to me, that will be, I mean, today, if you can wake up in the morning and start investing in Bitcoin, right? So to me, that will be within the next 6 to 12 months, we'll see more people doing that. Education is important. So that is definitely the area I believe that will drive it, on top of what Kevin said about decentralized ID and currency and digital assets as well. So yeah, thank you.
Thank you. And lastly, Kevin?
So I'm more excited in terms of the development of the scene and the technology. I mean, I understand definitely, right? People want to make money, and a lot of the focus on price action itself is indeed exciting. I make no qualms about that. But I think what's often understated as well, like what Samsung team is sharing, the security piece, right? Both in terms of software and hardware, is actually exceedingly important, especially as the space continues to scale. Now, who are the major players that continue to play in that space? How do people try and find new solutions to enable interoperability as such, right? These are the themes that in my mind are actually quite exciting. The broader concept, the governance concept, decentralized autonomous organizations. How do people actually start working on governance principles in the decentralized forums itself? That as a concept itself is actually quite exciting as well. I'm also quite excited about the blend whereby, a lot of folks and activity of people in the wider public has started in the crypto space, but gradually incumbents, institutions, organizations have set up, right? They say, hey, what's this space? So much activity, right? What could we do there, right? And I think there's not going to be a binary outcome where we first started in the space of a public permissionless blockchain and then enterprise blockchain. I see it as a spectrum. I see it a case whereby the world will start to converge actually, and there'll be new opportunities that are being created in that space. So how it will converge, frankly, I don't know. The space is indeed evolving rapidly, but I would love to be involved in those conversations, involved those scenes, because I think one thing that's consistently proven me right or wrong is the fact that when things suddenly accelerate a huge momentum, usually people were unable to predict up front. When the momentum comes, it would just take everything by storm. And the question then is, at the point in time when the momentum is there, are you in the right or you're not in the right? Yeah, so that's all I have to share.
I think that's the exciting part of blockchain technology, right? And at least within the crypto space, we felt that with institutional investors are coming in, the regulator are paying attention, is actually a very good sign for us. Okay, good. I have 1 minute to wrap this up. So guys, thank you very much. I really have a wonderful time talking to all of you. So Kevin, thank you. Ian and Timothy from Samsung, thank you very much. Wayne, my colleague from Big Data Exchange, thank you very much. So before I go, I also have to make this announcement for Samsung because Samsung is feeling generous. They're happy to give out a $50 voucher when you sign up for the Samsung exclusive partner program, right? So for all of the FinTech Association, Singapore FinTech Association members, please do that and you enjoy the $50. And also thank you everyone for dialing in today. We have a lot of questions. Unfortunately, can't answer all of it, but I think we answer most of it as we progress along. So thank you. And my name is Scott Ho from Big Data Exchange. I'll hand this over back to Sean.
Thank you, Kok-Ho, and a big thank you to everyone for attending our webinar today. We've now come to the end of our session, and we hope you've had some good takeaways from our discussion earlier. And once again, on behalf of Singapore FinTech Association, Big Data Exchange, and all of our presenters, I'd like to thank everybody for joining us this afternoon. Enjoy the rest of the day, everyone. Bye.
Thank you, Sean.
Thank you.